I think I had my first drink actually Mardi Gras sophomore year in high school. I had never really thought about how much the cultural aspect can come into play because obviously I come from a city born and raised in New Orleans where we are known worldwide as kind of being party central. Growing up, just being around it all the time, I was actually super anti smoking, drinking, drugs, anything until sophomore year of high school when I was 15 and I met which ultimately was my group of friends in high school were kind of the druggy group in the school. I was homeless by my senior year of high school, then came back to New Orleans in my 30s, went to grad school where me and my bestie drank like we were still 20-something-year-olds in undergrad. And this is really where I started to realize that I needed to pull up out of it. Everything is about getting a drink and revolves around drinking. And so when you take that out, then it just becomes about the people, about the event, about the celebration.
The fun that you were already going to pursue before eliminating alcohol, all it does is just all of a sudden you start having a better relationship with everything. Everything gets a little clearer, a little more gentle, a little more understanding. It just makes sense after a while.
What if we just accepted ourselves for exactly who we are today?
Hey everybody, this is Will Gordon from the Willpower Podcast, briefly coming on before this next excellent episode to remind you all that did you know that 76%, you heard that right, 76% of you that follow my content regularly have not subscribed to my channel yet, and I'm really wondering why that is. So if you could, the easiest and freest way to help support my show is to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of it. Like it, share it, send it to people that you think it might help. Because that's what I'm doing here. I've been through it. I lost my liver. I lost my kidney. I had such a severe alcohol addiction that I feel you. Okay. I understand what you're going through. And I'm really hoping that these stories are helping. So if you want to hear these stories keep coming, then please hit that subscribe button. It'll be the best decision that you'll ever make. Thank you so much for supporting me. And I really hope you enjoyed this next episode. I heard it was a pretty good one. Take care, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another excellent episode of the Willpower Podcast with Will Gordon. Today, I'm very happy, very thrilled, and very thankful to have a very special guest on the show. Her name is Mel Burbank. She is a 3-year sober founder of an alcohol-free female group. She's an integrative health coach, a CBT specialist, an ex-fitness studio owner, and health magazine publisher. And she has a focus on identity first, science-backed sobriety for high-performing women. So, Mel, how are you today?
I am doing excellent. Well, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, I'm just very thankful that you wanted to jump on and have this really cool conversation because I sometimes feel like, I have my past couple of guests were all men, and that's great and everything, but at the same time, sobriety is a multifaceted thing, right? It doesn't matter the sex, it doesn't matter the age, the socioeconomic status, none of that matters, right? So it's always refreshing to hear a different perspective in the matter. So if you could, Mel, could you just share a little bit about yourself and your story?
So I am born and raised here in New Orleans, where I'm currently located. And those of us that are from here, that's always the first thing that we always say. It's a huge part of our identity. And I actually talked about in the last podcast that I did, we were talking about, and this was something I never really thought much about. Um, we always think about our family ties with regards to alcoholism and is it genetic or environmental? And she had actually asked that, but we had just been talking about New Orleans and where I'm from. And I thought for the first time, I laughed when she asked about like how alcohol was in my upbringing because I had never really thought about how much the cultural aspect can come into play because obviously I come from a city born and raised in New Orleans where we are known worldwide as kind of being party central. It's actually a big part of our culture. Our culture for locals is much deeper. Obviously, it's about the music and the food and the togetherness and the history and the coming together. But for the most part, tourists, which is our number one industry, come here to the city to get messed up and drink diet daiquiris that are literally a yard long and
Well,
full of
I guess it doesn't.
artificial colors and
Yeah, I guess
Um,
it doesn't help when one of your most famous streets, if not the most famous street in all of Louisiana is named
after
for
what
a type of
my favorite alcohol.
yeah,
Yeah.
bourbon, right? Bourbon Street. So, yeah, no, it is, hard to kinda get away from alcohol if it's such a crucial part of the integration of, like,
Culture.
the city. Yeah, mhm.
Uh-huh, and growing up, and it's so funny, I never really thought about that it is really a regular part of everyday life here, you know? And now that I have not drank for 3.5 years, people always laugh and go, "You're from New Orleans and you don't drink? Like, what do you do?" You know? And as you know, I just had my birthday. I just turned 46. I like
Happy
to birth
birthday.
that thank you. I like to joke that since I quit drinking, I'm aging in reverse. I'm basically Benjamin Button at this
Yeah,
point. I'm literally, and it's true. When I look back at photos of me at 36, 10 years ago, when I was drinking heavily, and we could talk more about that. I had considerable more weight on me. My rosacea flared up like crazy all the time. So I was always super, super red. And I didn't look anything like I look today. And,
I'm with you on that one.
so
I look like a
yeah,
completely different person. Like, even going through my wedding photos, I got married in 2018. And I was like, "I look like shit." Like, I look terrible. Like, just I don't, like, fit in my suit right. Like, my face is, like, pale, and I have, like, kind of, like, you know, a lot of baggage under my eyes, and I just didn't
yeah,
look good. But now when people come over and they see the photos and they see me now, they're like, "Wait, didn't you just go through, 2 transplants,
mhm,
a ileostomy surgery, a reversal ileostomy surgery, you lost your colon, you lost your gallbladder?" Like, all those things, those terrible things that happened to me. And I'm still, like, on the up and up. Like, I feel like I am like, aging in reverse because I don't drink
yeah,
anymore, and I just try to take care of myself.
yeah, yeah. I always tell people whenever you see before and after photos, and, I see this with my clients that I'm fortunate enough to work with as well. The saddest part in the before photos or videos is always what I sadly call dead eyes. Their eyes just look sad
Yes.
and dead and just with no life, you know?
Yeah.
And then the after, this is always the biggest difference in the before and the after. The after is always the eyes are lit up
It's
and
life again.
bright and full of life
Mhm.
and full of life. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. And so this weekend for my birthday, I had such a blast. I just went out and I celebrated myself and I ate all the things that I wanted to do. I, went and had my favorite steak in my favorite restaurant, even though I rarely ever eat meat. And I went on creme brulee hunt and I went and had oysters and I went on a hike with my dog and I did a workout class and meditation and met friends and
That's
ate all the
that's
cookies.
what it's all
I walked around right? I walked around downtown on my way to the car eating cookies straight out of the bag because I was like, "It's my birthday. I can do what I want." You know? And I had a blast. I went to a candlelit, Louis Armstrong jazz concert, tribute to him, and I had a blast. And, as I just said in my stories yesterday, I was like, life is grand, and you don't need alcohol to celebrate it. And we deserve to go out and live our very, very best lives. And I find, um, and I've talked about this with my boyfriend as well because he doesn't drink, and I find it makes life so much more interesting
totally.
because before when you're drinking especially within our society, it's like anything you do, it's a part of it, right?
Mhm.
And it's the main focus is we're gonna go have drinks, whether it's at a bar or a barbecue, or you're celebrating, or you're drowning your sorrows, or whatever event, your weddings, your vacations, everything is about getting a drink and revolves around drinking. And so when you take that out, then it just becomes about the people,
Yeah.
about the event,
Relation
about the celebration.
the fun that you were already going to pursue
Yeah.
before all this went down, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's a
and
huge part of me. Like, I couldn't understand a world where I didn't have fun with drinking because I associated them as two and the same, like fun and drinking. That you have to have
yes,
one and the other. And it took a
yes,
long time. It took a long time to finally figure out, like, okay, I'm gonna go out, do the thing that I'm already interested in doing and I want to pursue, and it's really fun for me, and then go do it. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm there doing the thing, and I'm like, wait a second, I don't have any booze in me, and I'm having a great time. I'm laughing. Agreed. And I'm having jokes. I'm like really quick with the jokes, like because everyone else is drinking, they're not getting it as quick because their brain isn't like functioning at the level that mine is. It was like
Uh-huh.
it was like an eye-opening experience.
Yeah. And I was actually even telling a client recently, and this is one of the very common, what I call busting BS beliefs. BS beliefs, bullshit beliefs, are alcohol myths that we like to bust, limiting beliefs. And I have a framework that I use for that, but part of it is just calling it out for the bullshit lie that it is. And that, you need alcohol to have fun. And it was like I'm saying, I mean, it literally for me and for those I know, I have several friends that recently just matured out of drinking. God bless them, right? Never had big issues. Good for them. They just matured out of it. And it's like it opened up a whole world of fun that we could do and things that we could do. You're
Mhm.
like, we can go for a hike, we can go for a run. I'm going this weekend to take my son and his friend to do escape games, or we can go to the movies, or we can go to this fitness class, or have breakfast, or brunch, or lunch, or tea, or like it's like instead of just this one thing, we're just doing this one thing. We have 1,000,000,000 things we can do for fun now, and it just opened my world wide open. And then with regards to having fun, like you said, I'm like, actually, I was telling my client this because we just did this Bust BS Beliefs call, and that was one of hers. And I'm like, actually, you're going to find that you're going to have more fun. You're going to be more confident,
That I was just about to
actually.
say that, Mel. I was just about to say the exact phrase. I'm like, the level
Hmm.
of confidence I've gained in myself and my self-worth and, like, who I am, my identity,
Yeah.
it took a long time, I'm 2.5 years sober, so it took a long time, but, like, to get to the point that I'm at right now, I'm just so thrilled. I'm so thankful and blessed that, like, "Oh, this is, like, how life was naturally intended to be," right? In the first
Yeah.
place, we didn't need a poison, at every second, at every function, at every single social interaction
No,
we had. We don't need it. We just don't need it.
I call it living life in vivid color.
Yes, that's what it feels like.
Personally, it's truly, it feels like you can see life in true, vivid color.
Yeah. Your
That's
emotions
what's
are so
fun.
much more regulated. Like, there's so much to it, you eat
The
better.
calm, the patience,
Yeah.
the joy.
Patience, the true, like, genuine excitement towards your passions, your dreams, your goals, like, all those things are, like, just they just get ramped up because you have nothing to hold you down, you have nothing to that's kinda curbing your
No.
potential, so
Yeah, and what's really blowing my mind is it's still getting better. So you say you're 2.5 years,
yeah.
and I'm 3.5 years in. I'll be 4 years in December. So over 3.5 years, it's still getting better. That blows my mind. I'm like, how much effing better could it get? Like this is incredible. Like I literally wake up every day, my feet hit the floor, I let my feet touch the rug on the side of my bed, and I just say a moment of like, I'm so grateful for another day. I get to have another day on this planet. And I mean, it just keeps getting better. I'm like, I don't know how is it still getting better? Like this is crazy. It's 3.5 years. So I hope it never stops getting better. I'm freaking loving it. And I love getting to do what I am doing now and, helping other women
Mhm.
get to feel this kind of joy and calm and patience and self-confidence, which, women struggle with a lot, and I wake up every day to I was telling someone recently, I was like, I don't think I've had this amount of clarity in a really long time of just being so incredibly clear of why I'm here on this planet, what I'm doing to make the world a better place, the mission of my company and what we're doing to change lives. And it's just absolutely incredible. And then with my birthday too, I just sent a voice note to one of my clients and I was telling one of my girlfriends, I was like, also, I asked my bestie, I was like, is this a woman thing or is it a me thing? Now, previously, with every birthday, and we joked, we finally figured out we think it's a woman thing. And you can let me know. Previously, with every birthday, we always had some driving desire to be perfect and skinny and rich and have everything together. and everything taken care of, and like would go on crash diets before birthdays, especially if you were going on vacation before your birthday. And I've got to make the money and I've got to do the things and everything's got to be perfect because I'm hitting this age and I'm supposed to be at this point by this age, which you hit especially when you're like going into like 30s, mid 30s, late 30s, 40s. And like I said, I just did 46, which I felt last year, 45, right?
Mhm.
Um, I felt none of that this
That's
year.
cool. I honestly think
None of it.
you can attribute that to, like, just the authentic confidence that you have as a person, as who you are now. It's like because when you're drowning in alcohol, like we both were, and it's just a part
Mm.
of our everyday life, and it's all we know. Like, we only think of quick fixes. We only think of like, "Oh, shoot, like, the thing is coming up, and I gotta, like, lose 15 pounds, or I gotta get my
Yes.
finances in order before we go on this big trip." And I don't think it is just specifically just for women, honestly. I think men do this too, but they just do it a little differently. But I totally
Mhm.
understand where you're coming from. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I was like, "You know what? I'm just so happy with, like, where I am right now and who I am, and I'm so hopeful for the future, and I'm gonna eat all the damn cookies and not feel an ounce of guilt, and I just am so, so grateful for where I am, and it was like total peace and acceptance. So I told my bestie and then I told my client, they're both in their mid-30s. I was like, "Yo, if you guys could start doing this now and not wait till you're in your mid-40s like I did,
Mm,
go for it." We called it radical self-acceptance. Radical self-acceptance, can we talk about that for a second? Because it was like, what if we just accepted ourselves for exactly who we are today? That doesn't mean that you're not working to get better
right.
or you're not working to grow,
Not a cop out. It's like you're
right?
radically coming to terms with who you are. What are your convictions? What are your morals? What are your passions?
Yeah.
Like all those things. Like being self-critical, but in like a very optimistic way.
Yeah. And dropping this shield, Brene Brown calls it a shield, this 20-pound shield of perfectionism that many of us carry around with us.
Mhm.
That ultimately ends up being the thing that keeps us from flying. I probably butchered her. There's a quote, something along those lines. Um, and dropping that 20-ton shield of perfectionism and I've got to be perfect, um, which is different than working to be better and then working to better yourself, right? It's one thing to be working to grow and better yourself, and it's another to demand total perfectionism from yourself all the time.
I
So what if
totally,
we
yeah, I totally, yeah.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Like especially that point you just made, Mel. Like we're so as humans, we're so like we're so worried about what others think. We're so worried about like comparing each other ourselves
yeah,
to
to everyone else.
and
Mhm.
it doesn't serve us, like, there's nothing really to be gained from that, right? So when you
No,
finally start to embrace, like, who you are, or, who are you? And then and, like, from, like, the most, like, highest genuine level that you can, it's like, that's when, like, the doors start opening. That's when, like, life gets a little brighter, a little more colorful.
that's freedom,
Yeah,
right?
it's freedom because
It's freedom.
vulnerability is, like, the essence of, like, all human communication. If you can just be a little bit vulnerable to that next person who everyone is struggling, right? Everyone is struggling
Yeah.
in some way or another in this world. So if you can just open up that door, just, crack it open a little bit and just let the vulnerability kind of pour out and see what you get
Mhm.
back. It's very empowering.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was talking to them too, because speaking of other people, we often give other people all kinds of grace, especially our loved ones and the people that are very close to us. We give them lots of grace, but don't often give ourselves a lot of
When it comes
grace.
to us, yeah, it's really hard. It's hard to be kind
You
to
know?
ourselves. That was one of the things that I had to learn. That was, like, one of the biggest obstacles. I'm still kinda overcoming it. Like, how do I just be kind to myself and not think of myself as such, like, a low self-worth, insecure person? Like, how do I get over what
Mhm.
are these obstacles that are going on in my life that I need to kinda figure out and then find, like, a plan that can, like,
Which I
manageable goals and
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, which I think is a very common characteristic of people that had a drinking problem, right? Was that we didn't have that self-respect and we didn't wanna, take care of ourselves, which is why we often, did overdrink in the first
Yeah,
place,
well,
right?
getting back to the dead eye thing that you mentioned earlier, like, I walked
Yeah.
by a mirror, I don't think I looked at myself in the mirror for, like, 6 years, like, that's how, like, because I saw my
Mm,
dead eyes, I saw my
mm,
skin, I saw how terrible I looked, and felt,
mm.
and just I felt like such a disappointment, to my family, my friends, my job as a teacher. It's like I felt like such a low, low, low version of myself. But
Yeah. And that's very, very common. You mentioned, before the show that you're also a Mel Robbins fan, which I joke that people always say that when I say my name is Mel, and I'm a huge Mel Robbins fan as well. And, she came out with the high five method. There, I'm gonna high five myself. She came up with the high five method and several other really simple, great tools. And that is the beauty of the tools that she comes up with and why they're so successful and why they work for so many people is because of the simplicity of them.
Mhm.
But she came up with a high five method in which you got to high five yourself in the mirror, which I've taught to a couple of friends that I knew needed it because I knew they were not looking at themselves in the mirror because they could not. And she came up with that because she was going through that in which she couldn't even look at herself in the mirror. And, many women and of course men as well go through that. And that's what it was about. It was about looking yourself in the mirror and giving yourself a high five. And, she talks about what that communicates, what a high five communicates, that you can do this, that you've got this, that I believe in you, And by the way, after I heard that episode, I started high fiving my son every day before he goes out to school. And it's so funny. He has no idea that I'm like doing it because I'm like pumping him up mentally and emotionally, before he goes out. I'm like, high five, you got this.
so Mel, before I know this has been really positive, and I want to keep that positivity going, but I am really curious about your story. And you said from the age of
Yeah.
25 to 42, you were drowning in alcohol. So could you
Yeah.
tell us like a little bit about like what was your life like during that time period?
So, yeah, so as I mentioned, born and raised in New Orleans. And so I think I had my first drink actually Mardi Gras sophomore year in high school. And I previously, before that, growing up, just being around it all the time, I was actually super anti smoking, drinking, drugs, anything, really straight edge young lady until sophomore year of high school when I was 15, about to be 16. And I met, which ultimately was my group of friends in high school were kind of the druggy group in the school. Even though we all went to a top academic school in the state. So we were smart partiers and druggies, but I fell into that group. I had my first drink. I, smoked weed for the first time. I'm pretty sure I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. That's um we dropped acid, like, for days on end and, basically just walked the streets of New Orleans throughout all of Mardi Gras, and when Mardi Gras, I don't know if you know, like, once it really ramps up for the last 5 or 6 days before Mardi Gras, it is just night and day parades and people on the street, um, and that sent me down a path, that I continued on for over 25 years, actually. It was 27 years. I then went on to undergrad at San Diego State. So I drank all through high school. I was homeless by my senior year of high school. Yes. Well, not homeless. I was like couch surfing my friends' parents would let me sleep on their couches for extended periods of time. Um, when I graduated from top high school in the state, by the way. Um,
Was there a reason behind that, or was that something personal that you just don't feel like sharing?
Yeah, I didn't, yeah, I don't need to get into that. I didn't have a great household, growing up, right? Which probably contributed to the drinking. I did grow up with my mother as a single mother who was abusive physically, mentally, emotionally. And I had to get out of that, right? So that probably contributed.
I'm sure it did. Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure that contributed. So I took off to California like the day after I graduated high school. I ended up ultimately in undergrad at San Diego State. I did get into college. I think I took a year or so where I was at community colleges before I transferred over. And San Diego State is a big, big party school. And so I continued partying there, living in San Diego, and continued to party through my 20s. then came back to New Orleans in my 30s, went to grad school after my son was born to raise my son here, and went back to grad school where I then me and my bestie drank like we were still 20 something year olds in undergrad. And basically, that's really where the wine habit started. So previously in my 20s, it was like, Jägermeister shots at the bar, at the beach bars in San Diego, and drinking all the beer. And, we would be doing, all the drugs as well on Saturday night, of course. Lots of cocaine going around the beaches. You know how it is.
I do know how it is. Yeah, my 20s were a blur, so I do know it. I do know it.
More regular drinking in my 20s, right? Several times a week. Um, you know, and then in my 30s in grad school, it became more of we're older, more mature drinkers, so we're gonna have wine and
I love
you
how
know the
you justify it, right? It's like so funny.
we're gonna have
Well,
a glass of
we're
wine.
26 now. We can't be drinking just like MD 2020.
Yeah. No, we're in grad school. We're in grad school, so we're gonna drink wine, but we're not gonna tell anyone. We're actually buying the $8 bottle of red wine, and we're buying 5 of them.
Yeah, the Franzi.
Um, because we fancy drunks now, right? And so then that at that time through my 30s, and again, I had bought a beautiful home. I was driving the nice SUV. I had started several businesses. This is back when I owned and published my natural health magazine. And throughout this, I have been in the health and wellness and fitness industry for over 20 years in some way. I own my own fitness studio, as you mentioned. I was a kickboxing instructor. It was a all women's kickboxing boutique studio. So I had women looking up to me. I was empowering women. I ran, owned, and published a natural health magazine that was a leading natural health magazine here in the city of New Orleans with our top circulation 35,000 magazines I put out every single month myself, all about natural health and natural health living while I was
Right.
secretly binge drinking
Mhm.
on the weekends.
Yeah.
And so at that point it was more like I was only drinking like one night a week, maybe two.
Mhm.
Generally, because I work for myself, I used to say it would often happen on what I called a random Tuesday. So it wasn't like I was a big weekend because I work for myself for so long. I've never been much of a 9 to 5er. Um, so I never could relate, by the way, to the all these. I'm not hungover on Sunday because I was like I never really drank on Saturday night. It was always for me a random Tuesday or a random Thursday,
Hmm.
where we would have a glass of wine, and actually it was 5 bottles.
Kind of sounds like you had it all together, though. I mean, like you were drinking like twice a week, and you were super high functioning, but this is slowly creeping its way into your life. It sounded like.
Oh, it wasn't slowly creeping though, right? That's the thing is that's what it sounds like, right? It sounds like, oh, you were only doing it one night a week. And I will say at that stage of my binge drinking, so I was always a binge drinker. That was my particular disordered pattern of drinking, right? Once I drink one, I just couldn't turn off. I couldn't turn it off. And I was gonna drink basically until I was falling on the ground and blacked out, you know? So, yeah, it was one night a week, and we're on the back deck, and we're with girlfriends, and we're lighting candles, but we're not gonna think about the fact that I drank wine until I was literally falling on on the floor of that deck, or that I would go get another bottle of wine after my girlfriends left
Mm.
for the night and stay up scrolling Instagram and drinking another bottle of wine by myself.
Mhm.
We won't think about that or talk about that. So even though it was one night a week, maybe two nights a week tops, and this is really where I started to realize that I needed to pull up out of it, which, by the way, was a several year process of coming to terms with this can't go on, right? It was
Several years, so there wasn't like one momentous.
there wasn't the end,
There
which I'll
was.
get to.
Okay.
There wasn't the end. Um, and before that, yes, I had tried to quit hundreds of times, right? And also remember, I'm like a top fucking fitness influencer in my cities. I'm doing like cleanses and detoxes and shit, which I can't say without laughing because it's ironic. Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest, like it's ironic. What I did for a living was health, that I was binge drinking 1 or 2 nights a week and downing 5 bottles of wine. Um, not by myself, I would be dead, but, like at least 2, maybe 3 on a bad night, 1.5 on a good night. Um, I noticed that, I'm a Virgo, I'm a perfectionist. We just talked about how, we're all trying to outgrow that and move past it. I like to operate it, I say 110%. And I noticed that the next day I would be operating it closer to, let's say, 20, 30%. This is canceling meetings, ordering Uber Eats, eating greasy food, closing the curtains and locking myself in my house and watching rom-coms or shitty reality TV until I could feel good enough to maybe at least go pick my son up from school and make dinner. And then the next day, I would feel maybe 40, 50%. Okay, we can get up, we can do the meetings, but we're kind of hiding how shitty we feel. And P.S., we're still eating crappy food because we don't feel like ourselves and, we have no, motivation to do anything. And the next day is 70, 80%. And then the next day, maybe by day 4 or day 5, I'm back operating at like, fuck yeah, let's go. Let's rule the world. We're going to take over everything. I'm going to empower all these women. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to do everything better. I'm going to do my life so great, blah, 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 blah. Well, it takes like 5, 6 days to get back to that, right? And if I'm drinking every 5 to 6 days, by the time I hit that day where I'm feeling 100, 110%, I might have 24 hours, 48 hours of feeling fantastic before I get wasted. And I would start the process all over
Right.
again. And I get goosebumps and chills
Yeah.
just thinking about it. Now, imagine if you're doing it, if I had a bad week and I did that twice that week, that means I never even come close to operating at 100, 110%. It means I'm always operating at 20, 40, 60%.
Well, that's like your everyday drinker, though. I mean, like your common drinker who has like 4 to 6 drinks a week or whatever, like they're constantly playing catch up with their body, their mind, their everything that's like health related in their body and their mind. Like they're constantly trying to catch up. It's like because their body's trying to cleanse it. It physically cannot in time by the time like you
You
need to be like
put more
right,
in.
yeah.
Mhm.
So like you just like okay, well it's Thursday night. Oh, time to watch football, and like football's on, then drink. It's Friday night. Well, Friday night's Friday night. Oh, it's Saturday.
Huh.
It's like time to watch college.
All the
It's like
reasons.
you just make reasons, and then all of a sudden you're just like stuck in this
Well, you
cycle.
don't make reasons, society does.
That's true. Like,
Society includes
yeah,
drinking in every little aspect that you do. Yes, and you become locked in your own fucking prison,
yeah, you're
and
stuck
it's
in a
fucking
prison.
hell.
Stuck in
It's
a
fucking hell. And while my particular disordered pattern of drinking was binge drinking, and some people's is everyday drinking, I think it is a similar hell that you're locked in. You're just locked in a cycle of hell.
yeah.
And you keep wanting to get out of it and you keep telling yourself you can change and you can do it differently. And then, yes, that thing comes up and that event comes up, or you have that shitty day. It always starts with one drink. Of course, I'm just going to have a drink. Today fucking sucked. Or I'm going to have a drink because today was amazing and I need to celebrate, whatever reason, right? All the reasons that we come up with. It always starts with one drink and then you're off to the races
Mhm.
because you have no control and no switch. Like I said, my friends that matured out, they have a switch. They have the off switch.
Yeah.
There are many of us that don't have the off switch.
I was aware of that. I was very self-aware of that when I would be drinking with people and they could just have 1 or 2 and then just like, "Okay, like, I gotta drive, so I'm outta here." I'm like, "How do you do that? You're a superhero."
I know. You're like,
I
"You
it's like, for me, it's
motherfucker."
like, keep the sugar be the fun. I'm hitting it like 1,000 miles an hour if I get one in me, because then I just wanna, like, shut it down. I wanna shut it down, my body. I wanna shut down the bar. I wanna shut down all my relationships because that's what would happen. Like, I didn't want to, but that's what
Uh-huh.
would happen. So I get it.
So, it wasn't until I was 42. So at this point, I've been doing it for 27 years. I had actually just sold my big house and rented a smaller apartment, and I credit that as an odd start to my journey of going alcohol free because my house, even though it was beautiful and the businesses and the beautiful SUV, that life was actually very hard to maintain. Um, the big expensive house and everything, I think letting some of that go actually helped pave the way for me to really take a moment to feel what I was doing with my life with drinking. Um, and I think I was just tired. I think I was just tired of
Mm,
it. And so, it was 2021. Um, at that point, I was, like I said, I just turned 42. Um, my son and I had gone, right before Thanksgiving to a cabin, and we came back Thanksgiving Day. And we were invited to a Friendsgiving at my neighbor's house next door that night. And I thought that I was pacing myself and doing really well, and I'd only had a glass or two of wine. Well, I didn't realize that one of her friends there had been refilling my glass through the night, and while we were sitting at dinner, and I actually blacked out at dinner, and we're, like, sitting at the table with, like, all our friends and family and kids, and, I blacked out the table, and I don't even remember the end of the dinner.
Mm.
I have, like, just flashes of the beginning of the dinner, and by the end of the night, we are and they were all over drinking as well, this particular group of people, because, we tend to attract those people that are also doing,
Oh, yeah.
our own bad habits, right? Or our own reasons, usually as a result of our past. Um, they were all getting wasted as well, and of course, we're drinking this time we're drinking nice red wine because it's Thanksgiving, and we're, like, falling off the porch. I remember I fell off the porch, I fell backwards. And, I mean, it was, like, maybe 3, 4 feet, but I hit the ground really hard, really, really hard, and no one was on the porch at that moment.
Mm.
And I remember, like, staring up at the sky and just being, like, so incredibly grateful that I had not
Like crack your head or,
cracked my head open
yeah, yeah, something.
or broken an arm or something, and how lucky I was. Um, and that ultimately turned out to be the very last time that I got blackout drunk.
Hmm.
And so I went into December of 2021 just feeling like I just couldn't do it anymore. I was just tired. It had been 27 years of this shit, and I was just tired, and I couldn't even look at the wine. I drank so much freaking cheap wine. I really at that point I wasn't drinking much else, some champagne, rosé all day, because that's cute. Not cute. It's not cute. I just couldn't look at it anymore. So I remember I did have like a couple of glasses in December of 2021. But just could hardly finish it. And then we went to um Christmas, we went to New York that year, for Christmas, my son and I. My son loves New York, and he loves going to New York for Christmas. Um, and so, of course, I'm in New York for Christmas, and we're having these beautiful dinners. So, of course, I order a glass of wine, and once again, I was like, I couldn't even look at the glass. I was like, I can't. I just can't do this anymore. Like, I can't look at it. I can't taste it. It's making me fucking sick.
Yeah.
Um, and so I didn't finish it. And then we were flying out on December 30th, 2021. We were all flying back to get back to New Orleans before New Year's Eve. We're going to do New Year's Eve at home. And there were other moms that I knew on the flight because it was a great flight from New York to New Orleans to get home in time for New Year's Eve. And we were flying out of Newark, New Jersey. And they were all hungover because they had done the mom drinking thing. And what's funny? I just realized I've actually never told them this story. They don't even know this. I should tell them this story. I still know them. Our sons went to school together. And so they're like, we're going to go get a little hair of the dog at the bar. Do you want to join? Well, it turns out peer pressure still exists at the age of 42, which is hilarious to me. And our sons were all at the gate. They're teenagers, are playing on their devices. And so I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. I haven't even had a drink with you guys in a long time. Sure. And so we go to a bar that's just in the terminal of the gate. And I think because it was kind of just in the like gate area and not like a sit down restaurant type thing, I order a glass of Chardonnay, which to this day, I don't know why I ordered Chardonnay. It wasn't really something I drank very often. And the bartender gave it to me in a plastic cup, and it wasn't even cold. It was lukewarm Chardonnay in a plastic cup in the middle of an airport. And I took 2 sips, and I was like, I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna throw this shit
Growth.
up all over the fucking
I
place
feel like
right
you've
now.
already made the decision, like when you had that mishap at
Yeah,
Friendsgiving, you probably made the decision then, but
yeah.
life has a really funny way of kind of throwing curveballs at you when
Mhm.
it's like, okay, like, is Mel going to do what she needs to do in these next couple,
Uh-huh.
testing
Yeah.
sessions, right?
So I told the ladies, I said, "Ladies, I'll meet you back at the gate." And I turned around and I threw it in the garbage as I walked away. And I went home and I never touched alcohol again.
Wow, that's really
I
cool.
flew home. I know. And I love it. And I joke now because I'm like, well, I can definitely never, never drink again because the irony to me of the metaphor when I looked back and I thought about it and I was like, it's a perfect metaphor for drinking, right? Because we think it's going to be so fun and so glamorous. Let's go get a glass of wine together at the bar with my fellow moms. And in all actuality, drinking is just warm fucking Chardonnay in a plastic cup and it's bullshit
It is.
and it's a lie and it's a false narrative that we are sold that it's going to be glamorous and fun, and in all actuality, it's just fucking warm Chardonnay in a plastic cup, and that is the reality of it,
And it's
and it
never really
my
humorous or fun. It really is never. I mean, I used to like
no, but it's sold as that, it's sold as that, right?
was that? Like, every one of my Facebook pictures was me holding some kind of drink in my hand wherever I was. Like I was like so proud of it. Like, look at what I'm doing. I'm drinking with like at the beach. I'm drinking at a concert. I'm drinking like the bowling, whatever, whatever.
Yeah,
The case may be,
mhm.
I was like proud of it. I like hold it up in the pictures. Like I can go back and like look at that. I'm like, what? Like what?
Oh, so
I
many.
was a sense of pride. Like there's no pride in that. Not really. I mean, no, they're really not really at
No,
all. You know,
no. I was thinking this morning that, I talk about a lot about how this is an incredible movement that's happening right now, that there is a huge push for alcohol-free living, and that was part of why I started Alcohol Free Females was to continue to support that movement. They say in 2025, US has hit some of its lowest drinking numbers in decades.
which is awesome. That's really great, and
Incredible.
that's a huge
Um,
credit for the younger generation coming up. I think they're the access to information
65%?
yeah, the access to the information is like, "Wait, why would I do that to myself? Look at all these people that are struggling as adults," like, "What
Yes,
why would I do
yes,
that?" Yeah,
because people were figuring out that why would I
yeah.
pay money, use my time and my energy, your two most valuable resources, to drink a poison
Mhm.
that literally is poisonous to every cell and organ in your body. We now know, right? When you drink, literally, the first thing your body does is it starts trying to detox the alcohol as quickly as possible. It shuts down everything else. It shuts down your fat metabolism. It shuts down getting rid of all other toxins in your body. It literally, because it's so bad, it's such a bad toxin to the body that the moment you consume it from the very first drink, your body goes into alarm mode and instantly needs to detox it out of your body because it is that bad. It's that much of a poison to every freaking cell in your body.
Yeah.
But I wake up every single day and I'm like, what can I do to move this movement forward? Today, this is it. Right? Every single day.
Eliminating alcohol, all it does is just all of a sudden you start having a better relationship with everything in your life. It's not just like one thing, like it's
Mhm.
everything. Everything gets a little clearer, a little more gentle, a little more understanding. Like
Yeah.
you just kind of it just makes sense after a while. But it's so difficult for people to finally do that. So before we jump off,
But
and this has been such an awesome conversation. This has been just
yeah.
we could talk forever. But I was going to ask you, like, if someone were to come up to you, Mel, and say, like, okay, I really want to get sober tomorrow, but I'm not really sure what to do right away. Like, what would you recommend to them?
Um I think, the first thing I always tell people, and I'm going to just bounce off of what you were just saying is, and one message that I've really been trying to get out there that I do with my clients is it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy. I found out later that what happened to me is called spontaneous remission by scientists. And according to the NIAA, they did some studies and he realized upwards of 75% of people. Now, you don't hear about these stories a lot because when this happens to people, I believe that they just continue on with their lives and they don't talk about it as much. You don't hear about it as much. But upwards of 75% of people quit how I did with spontaneous remission, where it's like they're just done.
Tired of it.
They're just tired of it, and I call it, it just flip they just flip the switch, and it's like a switch just flips, and it's off, and then you're free, and then you're free to move on with your life and really live your life to the fullest. So one of the first things that I tell people is it doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy, and we're going to teach you how it can be easy. The biggest thing, you talked about that a lot of my program is identity based, and we do a lot of cognitive behavioral techniques and awareness. Awareness is key. You cannot change something that you're not aware of yet. So one of the first things that we teach people is just being aware and being what I call scientists of self, and starting to be aware of your thoughts. It's one of the first steps, and be aware of feelings, the tiniest little inkling. When you feel the tiniest little bit of anxiety, that's your body telling you that we're doing something wrong. It's your body warning you, right? And so we learn to listen to those tiny little inkling of alarms before they become big alarms. And so the first thing I always teach everyone is the first thing you want to do is start to be aware. You need to start to understand that it does not have to be hard. It actually can be easy. Um, and then the next thing we work on is identity and saying, literally, I am a non drinker.
Yeah.
I don't drink. It's not, I'm trying not to drink. I'm trying to quit. No, words have power. Words have power, and they have power over in your brain. As we know, neuroscience tells us your brain will believe what you tell it. That's why affirmations work. That's why looking in the mirror and telling yourself, you got this shit, you're a badass works. Your brain believes what it tells, what you tell it,
100%.
right?
100%. Like your thought, it's like the triangle. I don't know which psychologist brought that thing, created this graphic, but it's your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. They have to constantly be in congruence with one another. Because if
Well,
your
we
thoughts
actually,
don't mess with then all of a sudden the feelings
that is
yeah,
literally the very basis of cognitive behavioral technique.
yeah.
Is the fact that your thoughts contribute to your feelings, would contribute to your actions. And if you take it another step, it's your actions and your behaviors that ultimately design your reality,
Mhm.
right? And I'm always curious as to the root of things, right? And that's what I did when I developed my program is I looked at what happened to me and how can I reverse engineer what happened to me so that I can then replicate that and help other women so that they can quit like I did and just move on with their lives fully and freely, right? And step fully into their power. And so I looked at that and I said, well, but what contributes to the thoughts? Right? And we know now, and Robert Dilts was a neuro-linguistic programmer. James Clear came out with Atomic Habits, you may be familiar with. He was one that I've freaking I should be affiliate. I bought that book for so many people. Um, he was what was so great about the book, and again, talk about another very simple concept that helped a lot of people and made him millions of dollars, right? He was the first person that brought identity-based change to mainstream people, right? And this thought of instead of changing your results, and by wanting to change your results, you change the processes without ever thinking about the identity and what's at the core of who you are. You need to change your own identity first and who you believe you are, and then change the processes to support that identity, and then the results will take care of themselves, right? That's just really basic, looks like a bullseye model.
Like even just something so as simple as getting up before everyone else. So just like a small habit that you can implement into
Just
your life.
micro moves,
Micro moves.
bec-
Yeah.
because they add up, and next thing you know, you are that person.
Mhm.
Right? And then your thoughts naturally follow, right? Because you believe you are that person. Now, the thing we do is the next step is we look at limiting beliefs and challenge each one of those, right? And regularly do a belief inventory.
Mhm.
Fun. Because you believe you're that person. So then your thoughts lead automatically to better actions, which automatically makes a better reality. So that's the first step I would do with anyone that
Yeah.
said,
Yeah, your personal reality ends up
mhm,
becoming your personality. So you really got to be mindful of like what's
mhm.
going on around you this
Yep.
very moment, right?
So the very, very first step is just accepting that I don't drink.
Yeah.
And that is a fabulous, fabulous thing. It's not a sad thing. It's not a scary thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It is a fucking great thing. That's the other message I've been trying to get out. It is a great thing. It's literally like we talked about. It's going to open up your whole world. You're going to see the world in vivid color. It is an amazing, amazing, great thing.
Well, let's just end it with that, Mel. Like, what a fantastic episode this was. You just got me so jacked up as far as like continuing on with my sobriety, the neuroscience behind it all. Like I love all of it. So I feel like I could have 10 podcasts with you because there's so many areas that we could delve into, of the
I could talk for 10 podcasts.
Me too, to a fault, but I can definitely do it. So Mel, thank you so much for coming on the Willpower Podcast with Will Gordon.
Oh,
If people want to reach out to you, which I know they're going to want to after this episode,
yeah.
where can they locate you?
Yeah, DM me at alcohol free females. I'm in, like I said, I've been a little bit better about it. I am in the DMs. I love being in there, connecting with people. I've gotten really into voice memos. I'm very proud of myself for that. So yeah, DM me at alcohol free females. I also, like I said, I just started doing a live masterclass that I'm doing every single week, not just once and then selling a recording of it. That I'm calling the alcohol free formula masterclass. We're doing it on Thursdays or Fridays every single week. So I can do what I can to be out there with the community and continue to connect with people, answer questions, and just continue, like we said, to do what we can to propel this movement forward because it's so incredibly exciting. So that's where they can find me.
Awesome. Well, Mel Burbank, thank you so much for coming on the Willpower Podcast. You are just simply terrific, and I know that you're just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger because you have a contagious energy in like the best way possible. So
Oh my God, thank
continue
you.
with what you're doing because you're very passionate about it, and that speaks volumes. So,
You continue what you're doing as well. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I love what you're doing. Thank you for giving all of us a stage and a spotlight to share our story so that we can continue to do what we can to change lives. So thank you. Thank you for having
oh,
me.
thank you. That's very kind of you. And if you haven't yet, guys, please subscribe to my channel. There's a lot of people that aren't subscribed yet, and I would love it if you could. So all you got to do is hit that little subscribe button right there. But thank you so much for watching this one, and thank you, Mel, for coming on. And be on the lookout for many, many more episodes coming soon. Take care, everybody.
Yay. Bye.